The underground oil pipeline network in South Korea is more than 1,200 kilometers long. Each week, crude oil is refined at numerous refineries before being piped to large cities. The moles are individuals who bore in to siphon oil and make money. Criminal Straw is interested in this industry, so he employs the renowned Drill Bit to complete the task. Jibsae, who is impersonating Drill Bit, turns there instead, and when he tries to use the same drill the well-known mole uses, he makes a mistake that results in a leak. The warehouse explodes, and the guys barely make it out alive, and Jibsae suffers burns to his legs. A few hours later, when the police go up to look into the crime scene, police officer Man Sik immediately recognizes the drill as belonging to Drill Bit, who he had previously detained while serving in the Intel division. However, because he has little credibility left and does not inform the higher-ups of this, Man Sik asks his partner Sang-gu to assist him in conducting the inquiry on their own. Due to the high cost of the genuine Drill Bit, Straw visits Dae-han, the mole who delivered him the fake driller. Dae-han is physically assaulted by Straw, who then demands to see the genuine genius. Later, Dae-han sets up a meeting with Dol-yi. Man Sik and Sang-gu show up and started discussing the reasons to accuse them of being responsible for the recent explosion and demands them to show their legs, but the absence of scars clears them of the charge. After that, Man Sik tries to persuade his supervisor that the moles will try again, but he is ignored, so Man Sik persuades Sang-gu to assist him in looking through all the nearby abandoned buildings. Returning to Dol-yi, he meets with Straw to do the task that Jibsae was unable to complete. Straw is so pleased with the outcome that he informs Dol-yi about an upcoming, larger task from a significant supporter. A few hours later, Dol-yi meets with this backer, who turns out to be wealthy oil refinery owner Jian-woo. The project should be finished in a month because Jian-woo wants him to dig some particularly risky holes and obtain enough oil to fill the tanks of a factory that will be bulldozed in 50 days. Dol-yi is concerned that moving too quickly may cause the project to fail, but Jian-woo persuades him to join by offering him $1 million. The job is taking place in the hotel's basement, which will be shut down under the excuse that it is fully occupied. The team for the mission, which also includes the digger Gun-sab, the welder Jibsae, and the underground geography mapper Mr. Na, will be led by Dol-yi. Counter will keep an eye on the front desk while the men are working to keep any curious onlookers away. She will sound an alarm to alert the crew if the police arrive at the scene. There is a catch in the plan: even though they are receiving half of money up front, the contract is null and void if any of them leaves the hotel before finishing the work. Straw, who is posing as Jian-woo's bodyguard, takes away all their phones. The team starts working right away while whining about the unpleasant smell due to the hotel's underground sewer system. There is conflict among them since Dol-yi believes he is superior to everyone else, but at least he pays attention to Mr. Na's knowledge to dig where it is appropriate. Jian-woo is dealing with a loan that he took out using his stocks as security. He uses 50 million of company cash to buy low instead of paying his debts because he is confident that there will soon be an explosion that will allow them to sell high. Team finds its first issue, a deposit rich in lime. Mr. Na desires to avoid it because of how harmful its moisture makes things. Dol-yi believes there isn't enough time for a new route and advises increasing assistance while continuing on the current course. Gun-sab tries to defuse the conflict by pointing out that they can zigzag the beams for optimal support. He accidentally cuts a cable while attempting to demonstrate, hitting Jibsae, who then wants to start a fight. Dol-yi beats him up and calls him names before lifting Jibsae's pants to reveal the scarring and prove that he is the imposter. Dol-yi sends them all back to their jobs after showing that he has won an argument. Gun-sab urges Mr. Na to share, but he declines because the pills are so expensive. Mr. Na pauses to take a few. They discover a rock wall at the end of the tunnel after doing some more excavating. Though it's not impossible to break, but doing so would create a lot of strange noises, so Dol-yi instructs Jibsae to produce a lot of noise in the karaoke room to cover it up. Man Sik and Sang-gu are investigating every abandoned structure they can uncover in the meantime. Sang-gu checks the hotel and is shocked to see Counter, as this building was supposed to be empty. Man Sik identifies the location where Dol-yi performed the drilling for Straw. Counter explains they recently reopened while pressing the alarm button. The team didn't receive a warning due to a broken wire. She waits for Sang-gu to go down the hallway so she can use the walkie-talkies to communicate with the team, since she can't stop the cops from simply peeking around without raising suspicion. Jibsae manages to divert Sang-gu long enough for the team to plug the hole and pretend to be working on the sewer system by the time the officer reaches the basement. Sang-gu claims to have picked up Mr. Na several times from the station when he was drunk because he believes he has already met Dol-yi. Sang-gu leaves without discovering anything of interest, and Counter immediately goes down to repair the alarm wires. Counter and Gun Sab get stuck in the tunnel when something goes wrong and explodes. Jibse wants to take the opportunity to get their advance money and depart since he thinks they are dead. Dole Yi also wants to leave because they have exposed a gas pipe. Mr. Na, however, is unwilling to give up and begins searching for their employees in case they are still alive. This turns out to be a smart move because Counter and Gun Sab are actually still alive and still digging, so the three of them are able to create a hole to escape. Man Sik has contacted the backup in the meantime to show them what he has discovered. His superior is very impressed and eventually agrees to send his men to search the area for moles. Later, Dole Yi discovers Jibse attempting to flee with his money after hearing the alarm. Gun Sab joins the fight after Dole Yi catches him and starts kicking him for nearly getting everyone in trouble, but Mr. Na intervenes to stop them from being too rough. Mr. Na tries to persuade Dole Yi to make an exception after Jibse explains that he has an ill kid who needs the money for his treatment, but that's when Dole Yi realizes something. Since there are cameras watching everyone's every move and Counter's job also includes notifying their supervisor if anyone defies the rules, he goes to visit Counter and she verifies she was the one who triggered the alarm. Speaking about the devil, Straw and his men arrive with Jian Wu to inform the team of the contract. Since none of them have managed to escape in the end, he agrees to give them another chance, but this time they only have 10 days to complete the task before they are killed. When Jibse finally makes a deal, Jian Wu releases him after torturing him because he tried to escape. Given a secret phone, Jibse is required to keep Jian Wu updated on anything that occurs while they are at work. Extra $100,000 will be paid to him if he performs well. The crew resumes its job, and Mr. Na continues to take his pills. He tells them they are for cancer as the others keep bugging him to share. The police use metal detectors to search for them in the meantime, and when they finally get a clue, they start using an excavator to dig. When Counter notices everything on the security cameras, he raises the alarm, and the team starts removing everything from the tunnel right away. When Dole Yi returns to retrieve some metal items they left behind, he is hit by a gas leak due to the police excavation and cracks his ribs as he loses consciousness. Counter checks on the cops, who are now leaving after realizing they are tampering with the gas lines, but Mr. Na won't let them and puts on a mask to save him. Later, Mr. Na offers Dole Yi one of his pills in exchange for a favor. He wants to visit the hospital to see how his wife is doing because she is having surgery today and the cost needs to be covered. Both Counter and Dole Yi decline to put the deal at danger, but Dole Yi changes his mind later in the evening. He removes his watch and starts smashing the cellar floor to gain entrance to the sewers and assist Mr. Na in sneaking to the hospital. Dole Yi clarifies that he cannot compare himself to the dying man's final wish after Jibse sees this escape as well, but she chooses to repeat previous videos continuously rather than alert Jian Wu. This plan appears to be successful because Jian Wu doesn't notice anything when he reviews the video on his iPad, but Jibse destroys everything by messaging him to explain what's happening. But before Jian Wu can head to the hotel, a loan shark comes to him and warns him that if he doesn't pay, his life will be in danger. Jian Wu simply responds by striking the man's head against the window many times. Once the group reaches the sewers, Mr. Na is shocked to see an ancient U.S. Army sewer that is filled with unused utility pipes. When they finally locate a manhole and escape, it is already too late because Mr. Na's wife has already passed away. Sang-gu recognizes the debris as parts of the hotel floor when a local woman reports that someone has been throwing construction waste in her yard and contacts the police. Man-sik prepares to look into the matter since he cannot believe his spouse accepted the sewage explanation. While Dole Yi and Mr. Na return to the hotel, Jibse makes the decision to stay at the hospital to have his leg examined. Sadly, Counter and Gun Sab have already been taken hostage by Jian Wu, Straw, and the men that are waiting for them. Mr. Na begs for forgiveness by telling the circumstances around his wife, but Jian Wu ignores him and kicks Mr. Na. Jian Wu threatens to hurt his mother if Dole Yi attempts to leave because he no longer wants to work with him. The squad is forced to dig once more under Straw's direction, and this time, Counter is made to work with them as a punishment. Mr. Na becomes too ill to continue working because Straw forces them to work too hard without taking breaks, but when Dole Yi stands up for Mr. Na, Straw becomes enraged, and a fight breaks out. After winning, the team attempts to leave to take Mr. Na to the hospital, but as they are leaving, Straw's men show up to stop them. Dole Yi grabs a welding machine and a gas tank to start a flame to scare them away. Sadly, Jian Wu, who is armed, also shows up. Mr. Na attempts to jump on him in order to grab the gun, and during the struggle, he is fatally shot. Jian Wu then warns Gun Sab by shooting him in the shoulder, and when Dole Yi tries to attack him too, he too is shot. Man-sik and Sang-gu enter the hotel at that precise moment, setting off the alarm, allowing Jian Wu and his men to flee before being apprehended. When they are gone, Dole Yi opens his eyes and sees that the bullet missed his body and instead struck the watch in his pocket. Together, he and Counter help Gun Sab stand up and make their getaway through the sewers. Man Sik discovers the drill while waiting for assistance and is now more than ever certain that Drill Bit is involved. The group arrives at Dae Han's house where he has already sent Dole Yi's mother for a safe hiding location. Counter discloses that Jian Wu is doing all of this to pay a loan shark, right before he phones the crew to threaten them once more with dire consequences if they don't complete the assignment. Later, he phones Jibsei at the hospital to warn him about the police and to remind him to continue providing information. But it's too late, the police have arrived at the hospital. Dole Yi, who shows up to stop him from spying on them and forces him to rejoin the squad to exact revenge on Jian Wu, is responsible for Jib's success in escaping. Dole Yi now devises a strategy to reroute the oil using the utility pipes Mr. Na had mentioned with the aid of Dae Han and his metal detector. To offer the oil in exchange for 5 million, Counter and Dole Yi first meet with Jian Wu. After receiving his approval, they set to work. While the guys drill, Counter installs cameras in the sewer tunnels through a hole they make in the ground. As an excuse, Jibsei uses a break to meet with Straw and explain the situation. Dole Yi follows him because he doesn't trust him and witnesses him betraying the team, but he also learns something more important. Man Sik and Sang-gu are in the area since they have been paying attention to their phone signals. To draw the police's attention, Dole Yi dashes into the woods too, getting hit by a rock in the process, while Jibsei returns to the pipeline and sets up a camera so Jian Wu can spy on the officers. Dole Yi returns to the crew after losing the policeman and prepares to finally reroute the oil. Counter notices the police arrive in the sewers, but there isn't enough time to halt the drilling if they want to avoid being seen by the oil firm who are monitoring the pipe pressure. Plan B is chosen by the crew, which involves Gun Sab and Dae Han piercing a random wall so that the police will see them and chase them out. The drilling goes smoothly, but Dole Yi can't continue because of too much pain, so he directs Jibsei to complete the last task so they may complete the job together. To send some oil to the tanks at the plant, where Jian Wu has gathered all of his potential customers, Dole Yi opens the valve. He confirms the oil is present by opening a tap as well, so Dole Yi closes the valve and tells him over the phone that he will have access to the remaining oil after getting payment. Meanwhile, Sang-gu is injured during the police chase, breaking his leg, and is taken to the hospital. Man Sik refuses to give up because someone sent him a photo of the new drilling site. Jibsei betrays them once more as Dole Yi prepares to greet Jian Wu and opens the valves. Dole Yi manages to catch him just in time, punches him up, and then tears off the secret camera. In order to make Jibsei feel guilty for his betrayal, Counter, Gun Sab, and Dae Han all return. Together, they show Jibsei that Mr. Na had left his money for his son. Dole Yi meets with Jian Wu and instructs him how to operate the valves after tying Jibsei up. However, Jian Wu sends his men to beat them up so he may collect the oil for free instead of paying them. Jibsei breaks free from ropes and helps Dole Yi in beating the men before fleeing. Dae Han uses a forklift to get the squad out of the sewers and to the money and topple the container over as the other thugs rush in from the outside at the same time. Dole Yi waits a little longer in the sewers and threatens Jian Wu with the weapon he has taken from one of the knocked out men. At that point Man Sik discovers them, so Dole Yi distracts him by pointing the rifle at him and ordering him to detain Jian Wu before escaping as well. Sadly, it's already too late when he joins his team. Straw and his men have already taken all of them. Before escorting Dole Yi and the rest of the gang to the pipe room, where they learn Man Sik has also been captured, the thugs beat Dole Yi as well. In order to fill his tanks, Jian Wu releases the valves. He then detonates a bomb while explaining his strategy. Bombs are also on the oil reservoir behind the water tanks. The pipeline will be destroyed, and the nation's primary oil reserve will be rendered inoperable when he detonates them all, making Jian Business Wu's the sole seller in the market. Hundreds of people would die in such a massive explosion, but Jian Wu doesn't care as long as he gets paid, and it will appear that the explosion was caused by a botched mole theft. Dole Yi forces the group to kick over the welding machine out of desperation, and with Counter's lighter, they ignite a fire that burns Dole Bak Yi's and also sets the rope on fire. When he is free, Dole Yi grabs the explosives and throws it into a vacant utility passage before jumping into the sewage to escape the blast. Jian Wu also detonates the bombs at the tanks to murder Straw and his men, so they won't inform on him. However, the explosion isn't as large as he anticipates. Instead, the tanks simply release water. It comes out that Jibsei manipulated the valves while everyone was arguing so that wastewater was transported to the tanks instead of oil. As soon as the team and Man Sik emerge from the sewers, the officer calls for assistance as they wait for Jian Wu and the thugs, who are seeking retribution, to show up. Another fight breaks out, and they use everything at their disposal to protect themselves, including a forklift and an oil hose. Dole-Yi assaults Jian Wu and makes plans to kill him, but Man-Sik prevents him from turning into a killer rather than just a robber. When Man-Sik's backup shows up, everyone is taken into custody. The team was released on probation 3 years later and is now operating in their own shop. But when Man-Sik pays them a visit, he discovers them drilling a wall in the basement and doesn't believe them when they say they're working on the sewage, so a new quarrel breaks out like it did before. Thanks for watching, please subscribe to the channel.